Hi, my name is Robin, and today we're going to be integrating the Klippa Identity Verification SDK for iOS. There are a couple of requirements before you can get started. You will need an active API key and a username and password to download our SDK. Let's get started. Let's start by creating an Xcode project. I open up Xcode, create new project, we select app, click next, and we're going to just name this demo in our case. And for the interface, I'm going to use Storyboard. You could also use SwiftUI, but for the example, I'm going to use Storyboard. And everything else can be left as default. So click next, add it wherever you want. And we wait for the project to generate. Before we begin, we want to add a button which will help us launch the SDK. To do so, let's go to the main storyboard, click the plus in the top right, and drag and drop a button. We're going to pin the button into the center, horizontally and vertically into the container, and just lock the width and height. You can launch the SDK wherever or however you want. In this case, I'm just going to use a button. Holding down the Option key on your keyboard, we're going to select View Controller, which should open up this split view. Once we've done that, from the top left, we can hold down the Control button, select the button, and you should get a line like so. Then we can add the button. We add the outlet, so it's connected to our View Controller, and then we also add an action. So again, holding Control, and we have the action touch up inside, and add a name. To verify this works, let's add a print statement, for example pressed, and let's run the example app. So the simulator has started. We can see the button in the center, and if we press it, we see the word pressed in the bottom here. So that's successfully set up. Then to continue, let's start integrating the Klippa Identity Verification SDK. To do so, we can go to our documentation page. Today we're going to be setting up the SDK using Cocoa Pods. There's also Cartage. Again, we're going to use Cocoa Pods. I'm going to select this line, then open up a terminal. In the terminal, navigate to the folder where you just saved your project. And in this folder, we're going to write a command, pod init. This will generate a pod file, as you can see. Now we're going to open up the pod file in Visual Studio Code. And on line 9 or 8, add a return, and then add the line on line 9. In this case, we're using the latest pod spec. You can specify the version by changing this latest to whatever version you want. So let's save that. Now, before we continue, we need to open up Xcode and make sure we close it completely. So let's do that. Stop the task and close Xcode. Then go back to the terminal, and now we can run the command pod install. That was successful, and now we should see here this Klippa Demo XE workspace. So let's open that in Xcode. So as we can see, the project loaded up, and we can see both the Klippa Demo project and the Pods project in the top left. The Identity Verification SDK currently does not support simulators on an M1 MacBook, so let's disable that. If we open up the Klippa Demo project, make sure we select in the project this field, go to Build Settings. There are a couple of things we need to disable. First of all, in Architectures here, which you can find easily if you just type in Architectures. We're going to fold it open for Architectures, then again for Debug, we're going to add here the plus. And instead of any SDK, select iOS Simulator and select Other. Remove the standard To find what you need to fill in here, go to documentation, go to troubleshooting and select this x86_64 and add it in there. I'm going to do the same thing for the pods target, so select the pods, go to the project, build settings, and then architectures, fold it open, debug, plus, instead of any SDK, iOS simulator, other, remove this, and then add that one. Wonderful. So now if you look at the top, you should, under the devices, also see Rosetta devices, but you can also run on the normal devices now. There's one more thing we need to change. We need to disable the sandbox. So user script sandboxing is currently set to yes. Let's change that to no. Once we have done that, we can verify that the Klippa Identity Verification SDK has been integrated. To do so, let's go to the Klippa demo folder here, View Controller, and at the top we can import the Klippa Identity Verification, like so. And if we build it now, we should see that it still builds successfully. Perfect. To continue, we need to set up some privacy descriptions. To do so, we can open up this info tab, click this plus, and let's go back to documentation and then updating the info list. We need at least the privacy usage, camera usage description. So let's change this bundle identifier to the privacy camera usage description and add your usage description. This can be anything, but make sure it makes sense. For the customers, this is the message that customers or clients will read when the camera permissions is requested. For me, I'm going to write camera usage, but that will definitely not be enough for you. Then to continue, there are also options to enable NFC or near field communication. In this demo, I will not be doing that, but in your case, if you are, then you can also add the usage description for that. Then let's add some delegate methods. To do so, we're going to click on starting the identity verification, and we're going to add this identity builder delegate. So let's do that, select it, go back to the view controller, and add it after it. And we should get an error like so. We can click this little dot and fix it. Then we add 3 methods. I'm just going to put them at the bottom. These 3 methods are called when the SDK has completed. Either it was completed as in it finished, or it was cancelled due to an error or due to the user cancelling the SDK, or if the contact button was pressed, then the third delegate method would be called. So in our case, I'm just going to add 3 print statements in this case. Like so. Then to continue, to launch the SDK, we can go inside of the button press method. We can create a builder, like so, then create the view controller from the builder, and then we can present the SDK, like so. So now when the button is pressed, these 3 lines are executed, launching the Klippa Identity Verification SDK. As you can tell, we need a session token. To generate a session key or session token, you can do so in your backend. In this case, you can go to this page where we can find the Create Identity Verification Session information. Here we can set up the session exactly as we want to. It's just a post request which will generate the session token for you. I've already done so. So let's go back to Xcode, add the session token in this field. And now if we run the Identity Verification SDK, in our simulator, we should see a button in a second. So the simulator is launched, so we can click the button and the identity verification SDK has successfully launched. There are also a couple of customization options. Today I'm going to be showing you how to change the language. In this case it's English, but we can also set it to Dutch. To do so, let's go back to the documentation, customizing the identity verification and language. It's fairly easy. On the builder, we can just set the language to Dutch. So let's do so. So where we create the builder, just underneath, we can say builder.give language is .Dutch. Let's launch it again. Click the button, and now the language is Dutch. That's it. We have many more customizations available to you. You can find them all in the documentation. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you for watching.